This is the all-new Mercedes-Benz CLA Shooting Brake. And in fact, in this new generation, it's also available as an EV. Actually, it's the first Mercedes estate ever to be in an EV. So everything you need to know about this very unique car on today's episode of Autogefühl with me, AJ. Let's dive right in with the front design. You can already hear that welcome sound. So as soon as you go close to the car, it unlocks and it starts humming. It's ready. It's inviting you to step inside. I also really like the front shark nose design. It's got this really nice glossy black grille with these LED stars. Of course, at night they light up. You also have the multi-beam LED lights with the signature right there. Very aerodynamic. As you can see, a lot of smooth, buttery smooth surfaces, a lot of curves. In fact, the CLA Shooting Brake has a very low coefficient of drag, about 0.21. This new generation of the CLA is much larger than before. In fact, now it's 4.723 meters long. It's taller, and most importantly, the wheelbase is longer. So that should really translate to better interior space, and we'll check that out once we get inside. You have different wheel options. This is the AMG 19-inch wheels, but it's important to keep in mind that there are no adaptive dampers across the range, no matter which version you pick. So perhaps the smaller 18-inch wheels with the thicker sidewall will be more comfortable. We'll find out once we're driving. The word shooting brake is a bit of a misnomer because, yes, as you can see, there are two doors here, so it's not, it is still a 5-door estate, really. But to make it look more sporty, they have this really nice sloping roofline here in the C-pillar, and overall I think it is a very nice silhouette. I think it's very smart looking. Another new design feature for this generation is this dual tone hatch at the top here on the roof. A ginormous panoramic roof, of course, but then this section is also black to kind of make that extended look, and here you have a band of body color. So overall, really elegant. And to my eyes, it's a very sweet looking design, and in fact, pretty unique at this segment to get an estate. From this angle, we can also see that it's not a very flat, rare hatch. It's sloping, it's quite curved, and I think that really makes it very aerodynamic. I also really like this light signature here with the star like we saw in the front and a connected LED light strip across the middle. 350 4MATIC. So this is the top of the range. We'll talk about the different battery options, but as you can guess, this also is a 4-wheel drive version. As standard, you get a motor on the rear axle with that really cool 2-speed transmission. So a lower gear ratio for initial torque delivery, especially when you're towing or at low speeds or under heavy load. And then you have a higher gear ratio so that on the highway you can cruise and get a little bit more efficiency. But overall, a very nice, sleek, simple design. I do like this contrasting black and white. What do you guys think? Put your comments down below. The CLA Shooting Brake shares its platform with the GLB, so stay tuned because I'm also reviewing that and we can compare the two of these. So, you get two battery options across this platform, a 58 kilowatt hour or an 85 kilowatt hour net battery pack. Power outputs range from 165 kilowatts to 260 kilowatts, and of course, with rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, this has a massive 800-volt architecture, so you can do fast charging up to 320 kilowatts, so you can add about 320 kilometers of range in just 10 minutes. You can also use AC charging, 11 kilowatts as standard, and 22 kilowatts as optional. Take a look at these cameras on the wing mirror. There are so many sensors. In fact, Mercedes have really jam-packed this platform to be future-proof. It has a lot of advanced driver assistance systems already, but they will be releasing more over the air as updates. But as you can see, because of that camera, they've had to taper the design of this mirror, and there is a little bit less real estate for the actual mirror. So, machines are taking over humans. The future is already here, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the key fob. I can keep it in my pocket. I approach the car and the car unlocks. The flush door handles pop out. It is pretty solid, I would say. Door closing sound is pretty solid as well. And of course, another key design element of the CLA Shooting Brake is that there are frameless doors. So really sleek, looks really futuristic, looks really nice. Materials are very plush indeed on the top here and down here as well. And further continued to the lower part of the bumper. Here is a little bit harder, but not too bad. Seat controls in very typical Mercedes style, but it's good that you actually can move these so they click. It's not just a capacitive button. What I don't like, however, are these. You just have two window switches, and to turn, raise or lower the rear windows, you have to toggle them on with this separate button. Just give me two more switches. That would have been so much better. I don't like that so much. But if we draw our attention to the interior, another thing will probably catch your eye, and that's the super screen right across the center of the dashboard. I also really like the look of these seats. These are the Artico seats. They're man-made leather, so vegan-friendly, with this nice artificial suede-like material in the middle, so that should give you good grip. Of course, depending on if you have the AMG line or a different trim line, the seat shapes themselves also differ. Getting inside, you do have to bend down a little bit. Even though the roofline is a little bit higher, this is still not the GLB, right? But once you're inside, it does feel very driver-centric. The steering wheel is nice and compact. But yes, how do we feel about these three large screens right in the middle? Come inside and we'll take a closer look. I'm also really happy to see the return of physical rollers and this switch here for the steering wheel. This is still capacitive, but you can press in. So they are not just a touch, you actually have to press them in. But overall, I like the return of these. Your gear shift stalk is here with the actual start-stop button integrated. And then this is your lights and wiper control on the left-hand side. Part of the super screen is this digital instrument cluster. Of course, you have different themes that you can set for the entire super screen, and that also changes, for example, the color and the design of the dials. A lot more customization is also possible, but of course, the main benefit is that you can change the information that you have overlaid. So you can have the entire map, or you can have, for example, your driver assistance systems, or you can have the traditional dials. In addition to this, there's a really useful and large, vivid head-up display. The glove box is damped and has a rubber lining, but it's really not that deep. But take a look at this 14 inches infotainment screen for the passenger with even a camera. And of course, you can also watch Autogefühl on YouTube on long drives or watch Disney or some games. It's an option. I'm not so sure this is a great addition, but if this is something that you like, at least now you can choose to have this. This is, I think, more important for the driver. This is also a 14-inch touchscreen, the MB.OS, which is the latest version of the MB.UX, with two AI agents. So for the navigation, which is Google Maps based, you have Google Gemini to take, multitask commands and prompts so it can be a little bit more natural and do better navigation tasks for you. Also integrating all of the electric requirements. So if you're navigating, it will take into consideration the topography and how many charging spots you need to, charging stops you need to make. It'll calculate all of that and optimize that. So it's a really smart brain. And ChatGPT is used for the overall Mercedes assistant. So you can talk to the car and you can also interact with it that way. More apps here as well, very smartphone-like. You can choose to, for example, if you want to combine certain apps together, you can just club them together or rearrange. So it's really similar to your smartphone. You also have different ambient styles that changes the look of the entire super screen. So this is a nice, calm ocean floor design. Because it's an EV and there is no engine for sound, you also can choose different sound worlds. And this, like the welcoming sound when you really accelerate hard or brake, different sounds are used to kind of engage with you. Ooh, roaring pulse. Yeah, it's interesting. What do you guys think? There is also a massive panoramic glass roof with what Mercedes calls sky control. So you can see these little stars, they light up at night. And this actually is an electronically controlled sun filter. So I can, for example, say, hey Mercedes,
How can I help?
open the sunroof.
All right, I am making the roof clear.
So it will change the opacity electronically. And you can also choose different, for example, patterns. You can have like a motif, and then you can choose how you want to block light and let in some light. Maybe there's kids sleeping in the back and you want them to be shaded, but you want to have more sun on your, coming on top of you. So a lot of flexibility there. What's also nice is that you have two levels to this center console. You have space down here to strap in, like a book or a tablet, a couple USB-C ports, and there's actually a little port here, so you can pull a cable up from there and place your phone here to charge if you like, or you can just use the inductive charging pad, which is right over there. This is still touch-based. There is a button in general, so you can press in to this whole bar, but overall there are no separate buttons. But I do like the fact that you have a quick toggle to turn on the parking cameras, and I'll show you a little bit more about those cameras because they do a lot of cool stuff. Nice center console here with a couple beverage holders with spring-loaded clamps, so you can fit bottles of different sizes and they shouldn't fall. And of course a padded center armrest with more storage below. The CLA Shooting Brake can also park itself. Now I know this is no new technology by any means, but it does this very confidently. So if I just press this parking button, you see that it's now recognizing all the parking spots around me. In fact, if I turn on the reversing camera, it also shows you exactly where those spots are. So if I'm ready to park somewhere, I just click on Park Now. I'm not accelerating, braking, steering. My hands and feet are completely off the controls, and it is going, and it will stop on its own. I'm just keeping my foot close to the brake for safety reasons, but as you see, it's parked and it's put itself in park and it's done, and I can just get out of the car. All right, let's take a look at the back seat. Now remember, longer wheelbase, and in fact the cutout for the rear door is also larger now. Getting in is relatively easy, but again, this is a low-slung, sleek estate, so you have to bend down a little bit, but plenty of headroom, even extending beyond my line of sight. If I look straight up, this panoramic glass roof really liberates a lot of space. So it does feel quite spacious inside. I am sitting fairly low to the ground, so there is a little bit of knees up action here going on. There is therefore not so much of under thigh support, but a flat floor down here. This seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'8" or about 1.72 meters. And as you can see, knee room is plenty. I can slide my feet just a bit under the front seats, but in the middle seat as well, there is reasonable space. So 3 adults could sit here in reasonable comfort for short to medium distances. So maybe a couple hours at a time would be fine. But you have 2 Isofix mounts on the outside 2 seats for your kids. But I don't like the fact that these clips just pop out, because you will lose them or you'll have to keep them at home. But other than that, center armrest with cup holders and a phone holder and some pockets here behind the seats. Look at the design of these air vents. I like the way they click. They look like turbines from a jet engine. And down here you have some USB ports as well. The CLA Shooting Brake comes as standard with an electric tailgate, and of course this is its main USP, the estate trunk. You get 455 liters of cargo volume, which is pretty great. I also like the fact that you have nice channels, these guide channels for the parcel shelf roller cover, so you're not fumbling around with it. You have tether hooks on either side and a 12-volt power socket. And yeah, a really flat loading bay, a little bit of a lip, so you need to lift your suitcases over this hump, putting it in and out, but I think that's just a minor inconvenience. You also have the switch up here for the tow hook. There we go. So, like I said, 1,800 kilograms in this 4MATIC, which is pretty great. But what isn't so great is the fact that you don't have any switches to tumble the seats down from back here. So yes, you will need to go to the back seat and flip the seats down manually, but then you get a really nice flat loading area. As you might expect, there is actually a frunk. It has 101 liters of capacity, and as you can see, my cabin suitcase easily fits inside with room to spare. But also you get roof rails as standard, and you can load up to 75 kilos on those roof rails. And depending on the version, you can also tow 1,800 kilograms. That's pretty impressive for an EV. All right, CLA Shooting Brake in the city. How does it fare now that it's larger? Is it too tight to fit into these narrow city streets? Well, let's find out. I'm here in a small little seaside village in the Spanish island of Mallorca. Now, to help me navigate the city, the CLA Shooting Brake has a couple really useful features. First of all, it has the speed limiter, which I love to use in the city. People often get confused with cruise control and the adaptive lane keeping and the distance system, but the speed limiter is just allowing me to manage the speed up until the limit that I've set, and it will make sure that I don't go faster than that, and therefore it makes sure that I don't get a speeding ticket. So this is a really smart system because it detects this speed change based on the traffic sign recognition system, and it also uses the intelligent regenerative brake, the recuperation system, to make sure that I don't go over the speed limit. So now I've set the speed limit to 30, I'm going downhill, and it's braking to make sure that I don't cross the 30 speed limit. So it's really comfortable. You don't have to worry about looking at the speedometer all the time. And this intelligent recuperation also works, for example, if I'm getting too close to the car in front, it will also detect that I'm, getting very close and will automatically start braking me. So it's also taking the stress of that away from you. So like right now, I'm coming up to this junction, and the car is automatically braking. So it also helps you by taking over some of these tasks to make city driving that much easier. If you don't want to rely on the intelligent regenerative system, you can just flick the stock, and now you can choose between normal recuperation, or you can go to strong recuperation, and this is a true one pedal. So I have let go of the accelerator pedal now because I'm waiting for the pedestrians to cross, and the car has come to a complete stop on its own. So this is also really useful if you're driving in the city to work every day. Your daily commute is in traffic jams all, throughout your commute. This one pedal driving really makes it easier. To go back to the intelligent, just flick the stock twice, and then it becomes intelligent. The suspension now, keep in mind, we said that there is no adaptive damping. You just get a standard fixed spring rate, but they have, a Pentalink suspension at the rear. They also have, very nice hydraulic stoppers. So it does take the edge off of these, like for example, manhole covers and potholes and the bumps in the city that I'm going on. But yeah, I think 18-inch wheels still look nice, and it will add that extra layer of cushioning to make that a little bit better. But to be honest, it's not bad. They've done a lot of work to make sure that the suspension is compliant enough. Of course, over cobblestones and rumble strips, you do feel that kind of filtering into the cabin. So I would say 18 inches wheels are better. But look at this gorgeous view. It's so nice. And with this panoramic roof, there's so much light that's coming in. So yeah, it's a really nice ambience. It's a really nice place to be. The windshield is nice and large. The windows on the side are also not too bad, but the view out the rear is a little bit limited because of that sloping estate coupe-like design. The actual vertical height of the windshield in the back is not that big, so the rear window doesn't give me such a great view out back, but there's of course a lot of great camera systems and assistance systems to help you. And the navigation is also so easy. Here in the city, if it's a city that you've never been to, you have this augmented reality showing you where to take the turns. So in general, it's very easy. The steering is light, and in the comfort mode that I'm in now, the throttle response is very muted. So that it's not jerky, it's creeping at a very slow pace. It's a little bit more dull to my throttle inputs, so I don't have to worry about being too precise, especially in the one-pedal drive. You know, it's taking the edge off of that for me, and therefore in the city, it's definitely very, very comfortable. So the CLA Shooting Brake out on the highway. We're getting onto the autostrada now, to the highway, so let's test it out and see how it performs. First of all, electric motor, so woohoo! Making those quick jumps in the gaps in the traffic, really easy. And again, because of all of these sensors, even if I haven't turned on the adaptive cruise control or anything yet, the regenerative braking is already slowing me down, making sure I don't get too close to the car in front. So even if you don't have the adaptive cruise control system turned on, there is always a baseline safety net going for you. But let's turn it on now. So with a simple double tap, I have turned on the the driving assistance system. And there's actually a really nice view here on my instrument cluster where I can see what the car is seeing. So I can see that it recognizes this is the dotted line. I'm on the left lane. It knows the cars in front of me. It also knows the cars behind me. It's recognized that exit. So it gives me confidence that I can trust the system because it shows me what it's seeing. It's of course maintaining me in the middle of the lane. It's really composed and sure-footed. So now it will help me switch lanes in a safe manner and maintain that steady path as soon as it's, brought me to the correct lane. Let's talk a little bit about comfort. So the suspension, no adaptive suspension, but it's able to manage these undulations on these. The surfacing is quite smooth, but I do feel a little bit of up and down undulation. The suspension is doing a good job of maintaining that. So it's the damping has a pretty good setting right out of the box. There is no motor noise to speak of. You can choose those different sound profiles, but on the highway, it's not producing any sound, which is great because you don't want a constant drone adding to the fatigue. But there is a little bit of tire noise. Wind noise is really well contained, but overall, the refinement is really good. I'm very happy to see that, it's in general a very, very isolated cabin from the outside world. Steering is pretty heavy now. It's also, with the lane keeping assist, of course, it's not letting me, see, there we go. See, now it's making that lane change for me. But with this ADAS system turned on, the steering weight doesn't really come into play anymore because it's steering for me. So the feedback is unnatural that way. The seats are also doing a good job of keeping me in place. I like the Artico and this kind of fake artificial suede material here. It's got a nice grip. I'm not sliding around. These seats are a little bit narrow, but it fits somebody of my size pretty well. So I would recommend that when you have a chance, you also take a test drive and see which seat options might be better suited for you. Visibility on the highway is, again, good. You're looking out mostly in front, and there's a big expansive windshield. And overall, this is definitely a great car to do long distance road trips in. How does the CLA fare on winding mountain roads? Let's find out. I will go to the dynamic select and choose sport mode. All right, this is also the 4MATIC with dual motors, so front and rear axles. And I also have the Roaring Pulse sound theme activated. It sounds like an alien V8. I don't know how to describe it. It has that low frequency rumbling sound, but of course there's no actual firing of cylinders. We're gonna take it easy up this mountain because it's a very narrow road and there are joggers and cyclists. But let's see what we can make of it. Already, what I've noticed is that the CLA actually handles so much better than the GLB, which is its sibling on the same platform. Of course, straight line acceleration is really good for both of them, but the steering is significantly better in the CLA. The feedback of the steering wheel is very natural as compared to the slightly dull GLB. So here I think it definitely lends itself a more sporty character. And of course, that straight line acceleration with the electric motor really comes into its own. Also, the four-wheel drive means that there's plenty of grip. So if the rear wheels are not able to find enough traction, the front wheels pull me out, and I can also feel like just the amount of tremendous grip. Also, thanks in part, of course, to this really heavy battery pack, but that also gives this a low center of gravity. So overall, all these things come together to make the CLA a surprisingly fun car to drive on winding roads like this. At these speeds, on these slightly rougher surfaces, this suspension does feel a little bit bouncy. But again, I think that does lend itself a little bit more of a sporty character nonetheless. But as you can see from my face, the movements are not jarring. There's no sharpness. It's still very controlled up and down. The brake feel is not too bad, but since it's mostly regenerative braking, you have to press a little bit harder than you probably would have with just the friction brakes. This does have disc brakes all around this platform, so you know that there is always that fail-safe if you really need it. But yeah, you do have to press the brakes a little bit harder than you might be expecting to. All right, so to get a real-world figure for the efficiency and range, we did a short 1 hour 37-minute loop from here on the coast in Palma de Mallorca, and we covered some city traffic roads. We went up a mountain a little bit. We went on the highway, sustained speeds of around 100 to 120, and we did about 100 kilometers, and the consumption is 16 kilowatt hours for 100 kilometers. So in a real world use like this, you can expect a range of about 530 kilometers. The state of the battery says that there's 69% left, and it does still show that there's 433 kilometers left. The CLA Shooting Brake, the EV, starts at around 48,000 euros. But if you get the bigger battery pack and a couple options, you're easily looking at 58 to 60,000 euros. Now, that's not cheap, but this is a pretty unique proposition. There aren't that many other EV estates in the market, especially in Germany. Sure, we have the VW ID.7 estate, but that's quite a bit larger. You could maybe consider the BMW i4, but that's quite a bit more expensive. So the real competition, I think, is its sibling, the GLB. So be sure to be subscribed to our channel, because pretty soon we will have our review of the GLB and we can compare the two. But on its own, the CLA definitely ticks a lot of boxes. It's very dynamic, it's got the performance to match, it's got a lot of space on the interior, and it's loaded with tech. Of course, this new platform is still up for debate in terms of long-term reliability. We have to see how that fares in the long term, but if the past is anything to go by, I think this will be a success. What do you guys think? Put your comments down below. Check out some of our other reviews in the meantime, and I'll see you later.